All right, check this out. Trump just held a disastrous press conference in the Oval Office about his new tariffs, but the tariffs ended up being the least important part of the press conference because in it, he begins to unravel the global order that the U.S. has maintained since the end of World War II, and he begins to parrot Putin's talking points verbatim. 24 hours after taking a phone call with Vladimir Putin and leaving President Zelensky of Ukraine out of the phone call, Trump begins to parrot Putin's talking points and justifies Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is a collapsing of the global order, of the international order that has said you can't just invade your next door neighbor. You cannot just grab territory and annex territory. Russia invading Ukraine was the first time a country had its borders violated by a bigger superpower since World War II. Since Hitler invading countries in World War II, and now Trump is justifying it, you could argue that it's a pretext for him trying to attack Canada or Greenland or the Panama Canal, whatever you want to say. But I think it's important we break down these videos and point out the flaws in Donald Trump's logic because there are many. So let's begin with the massive clip where Trump says Russia invaded Ukraine because he said Biden gave them no choice, basically. He's saying Biden provoked Russia into invading Ukraine. Totally false. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014. They invaded Georgia in 2008. Putin has had long-term imperial ambitions, and the Biden administration could not have just appeased Putin in any way. But let me play this. All that I ask is that you drop a like and watch till the end to help boost this video.
Probably good today. They're a little bit softer, perhaps, but I thought his comments yesterday were pretty accurate. I don't see any way that a country in Russia's position could allow them, just in their position, could allow them to join NATO. I don't see that happening. And long before President Putin, Russia was very strong on the fact that I believe that's the reason the war started, because Biden went out and said that they could join NATO, and he shouldn't have said that. As soon as he said that, I said, you know what? You're going to have a war now, and I was right about that. This is a war that would have never happened if I were president.
But you don't think it's President Biden's fault, not President Putin? I mean, he's the one.
I think Biden is incompetent, and I think when he said that they could join NATO, I thought that was a...
All right, I cannot stress this enough. Donald Trump is known for just repeating whatever the last person told him. So I can almost guarantee that Vladimir Putin on that phone call spewed his own Russian propaganda and Trump fell for, but let me just debunk everything that Trump said. Number one, the idea that NATO and the US provoked Putin into invading his next door neighbor is completely backwards. It's like saying that this rapist doesn't understand consent, so you have to be careful around them because you could provoke them into raping you. I'm sorry, it's a rough analogy, but that is what Vladimir Putin does. He does not understand consent or international law, so he goes and he violates the borders of the next door country, and then when the country next door wants to join a Western alliance, Putin uses that as a justification to invade even further. There's also this talking point that Putin doesn't want NATO right on his border, but Putin has already had NATO on his border since 2004 in the form of the Baltic countries. The 3 Baltic countries are all a part of NATO, and they are right on Russia's border, and since NATO is a purely defensive alliance, it poses no threat. NATO is not going to invade Russia. NATO has never invaded a country. It is a purely defensive alliance. So here's what Trump is doing. He's stripping any sovereignty away from Ukraine. He's stripping away the ability for the citizens of Ukraine to choose if they want to join NATO, if they want to be more Western aligned, and he's giving Vladimir Putin a lot of ground. He is legitimizing Putin's tactic of grabbing territory, pausing the war, grabbing territory, and slowly making ground. Now let's watch this next clip of Trump saying that he fully trusts Putin.
I believe he wants peace. I believe that President Putin, when I spoke to him yesterday, I mean, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. I'd like to see peace.
He doesn't want peace. Putin is the one that unilaterally launched this invasion. You can't say that you want peace when you're the one that could create peace. You just withdraw your troops from the enemy territory.
Trust President Putin?
I believe that, I believe that he would like to see something happen. I trust him on this subject. I think he'd like to see something happen. I think it could have happened a long time ago. I think Biden, number one, it shouldn't have started, but it did. And now all those cities are knocked down, like demolition sites. All those beautiful golden towers are knocked down. There's nothing going to replace them. But much more importantly, you lost millions of people. A lot of soldiers, but you lost millions of people.
All right, we literally have a QAnon conspiracy theorist as our president, the leader of the QAnon conspiracy theories who created the election fraud lies, now eating up Russian propaganda as he gets daily briefs, let me remind you, from Tulsi Gabbard, who believes that Russia was also justified. I mean, he's using Tulsi Gabbard's exact talking points. She said, on the day the invasion happened, on the night it happened actually, this war and suffering could have easily been avoided if Biden admin/NATO had simply acknowledged Russia's legitimate security concerns regarding Ukraine becoming a member of NATO, which would mean US/NATO forces right on Russia's border again. There are already NATO forces right on Russia's border, but because NATO is a defensive alliance, the Baltic countries haven't posed any threat. That is a made up line from Russia, and now Tulsi is repeating it. And now the president of the United States is repeating Russian propaganda. At the same time, how can you say that Russia would have never invaded when they invaded in 2014? How can you say that it's Biden's fault when Russia has been doing these types of invasions since 2008? I mean, they are always trying to grab their next door neighbor. Let's hear what else Trump has to say.
They knocked down those cities, and they're all laying down on the side. They're laying down just in ashes and all crumbled up concrete. They literally look like a world-class demolition site. And many of them, almost all of them, but many of them, and this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen.
All right, he's repeating himself like a broken record there. He always says, this war never would have happened. This war should have never happened. Now listen to how Trump talks about Taiwan. I mean, the global order that has been established since World War II is basically falling in front of our eyes. And I don't mean to be dramatic, but after World War II, I always say this, all of the world leaders came together and they tried to figure out how can we prevent the world from devolving into such chaos ever again, and they came up with NATO. They came up with multiple defensive alliances that make sure Western countries join together to stop dictators from acting on their territorial ambitions. But now Trump is not only one, backing Putin essentially, or backing Putin's justification, but two, he's talking about Taiwan. Listen to this.
In all due respect, you know, they took the business away. Taiwan took our chip business away. We had Intel, we had these great companies that did so well, and it was taken from us, and we want that business back. We want it back in the United States, and if they don't bring it back, we're not going to be very happy.
Sir.
That is why President Biden passed the CHIPS Act to incentivize chip manufacturing at home domestically. But now Trump is talking about Taiwan in this weird way as if he's going to give it up to Russia or tariff it even further. I mean, I had my expectations set super low for Trump's response regarding Russia and Ukraine, and he still went below my expectations. I honestly didn't expect him to fall for Vladimir Putin's propaganda completely. I thought that he would try to employ at least some of his negotiating tactics that he always talks about. Maybe at least try to be a little bit tough on Russia the same way you were tough on Canada and Mexico. Really just a bully. But either way, I'll leave it at that. Drop a like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.